What if I told you that two identical sisters grew up just miles apart, yet never knew the other existed? What if one became the kingdom's greatest diplomat while the other became its deadliest warrior? And what if the prophecy that kept them apart was the very thing that would destroy everything they loved? This is the story of Princess Zara and Princess Asha, twin sisters separated at birth by a terrifying prophecy. One would save their kingdom through love, the other through war. But they could never meet, or both would die. But sometimes fate has other plans. And when an unstoppable army threatens to destroy everything, these two sisters are about to discover that some prophecies should never have been trusted. "16 years before our story truly begins, the ancient kingdom of Nubia was about to face its darkest hour. Queen Aduni was giving birth during a rare blood moon eclipse, an omen so terrifying that even the bravest warriors trembled. The royal oracle, a woman whose predictions had never once been wrong, spoke words that would haunt King Malik forever. Twin daughters born under the blood moon will save this kingdom. One through the heart, one through the sword. But should they meet before their destiny unfolds, both shall perish, and the kingdom with them. Imagine being a father, holding two perfect, identical baby daughters, and being told you must choose between them or lose them both. King Malik made the most heartbreaking decision any parent could face. The firstborn would stay and become Princess Zara. The second would disappear forever. He entrusted his most loyal friend, Commander Kwame, with a secret that would burden them both. Raise this child as your own and never let her know the truth. Princess Zara grew up in golden cages. Every luxury, every comfort, every educational opportunity, but always behind palace walls. By 16, she had mastered 5 languages, could recite the laws of 12 kingdoms, and could negotiate trade agreements that would make grown merchants weep with admiration. But here's what made Zara extraordinary. She never wanted to just rule. She wanted to understand. While other royals demanded obedience, Zara asked questions. Why do our people struggle while we feast? What do our enemies truly fear? How can we turn conflict into cooperation? Her tutors marveled at her wisdom, but Zara felt like she was living half a life. Every night she dreamed of running through battlefields alongside someone who looked exactly like her. Someone she could never quite see clearly. Someone who felt like the missing piece of her soul. She would wake up touching a pendant she'd worn since childhood, a beautiful piece with the royal seal that her father said was her mother's. But sometimes, in quiet moments, she swore she could feel someone else wearing an identical one somewhere far away. Miles away from the palace luxury, in the harsh border military camps, another 16-year-old was writing her own legend. Asha, raised as Commander Kwame's daughter, had never lost a single battle, skirmish, or even training match. But this wasn't just about physical strength. Asha had a mind for strategy that generals twice her age envied. She could read terrain like poetry, anticipate enemy movements like she was inside their heads, and inspire soldiers to fight beyond their limits. The border troops called her the Shadow Blade, not because she hid, but because she struck so precisely that enemies fell before they even knew death was coming. Yet for all her fearsome reputation, Asha never lost a single soldier under her command. She fought not for glory, but to protect people she considered family. Just like her twin, Asha was haunted by dreams. Dreams of a magnificent palace, of diplomatic meetings, of solving problems with words instead of weapons. And just like Zara, she wore a pendant that seemed to pulse with mysterious warmth, especially when she looked toward the distant capital. "Father," she would ask Commander Kwame, "why do I feel like I'm only half of who I'm supposed to be?" Commander Kwame's answer was always the same. Some questions answer themselves when the time is right. Here's the incredible part. Despite being raised in completely different worlds, the twins were developing complementary skills that would one day shake the foundations of their kingdom. While Zara was learning that every enemy had a story, a need, a fear that could be addressed through understanding, Asha was learning that every battle could be won through protecting what mattered most. Zara would spend her nights studying the psychology of conflict resolution. Asha would spend her night perfecting strategies to end fights quickly with minimal casualties. Zara was becoming the diplomat her kingdom needed. Asha was becoming the warrior her people deserved. And neither knew the other existed. But fate was about to force their worlds to collide. Warlord Bakari of the Kush Empire was not a man who believed in mercy. He had conquered 7 kingdoms in 5 years, and Nubia was about to become number 8. His army of 10,000 warriors was 3 times larger than anything Nubia could field. But Bakari was cunning. Why waste soldiers when you could use fear? He sent a simple message to King Malik. "Give me your daughter in marriage to my son. Your kingdom becomes mine peacefully. Refuse, and I will turn your lands into ash and your people into memories." Princess Zara, who had never faced true evil, convinced her father to let her negotiate. This brilliant young woman who could turn merchants' arguments into profitable partnerships rode out believing that surely even a warlord could be reasoned with. The meeting lasted exactly 10 minutes. Bakari looked at this sheltered princess with her diplomatic training and her belief in the goodness of people, and he laughed. His son, Kofi, a cruel young man with dead eyes and violent hands, circled Zara like she was already his property. "3 days, little princess. Marry my son, or watch your kingdom burn." For the first time in her life, Princess Zara encountered evil that couldn't be negotiated with, reasoned with, or understood. Some people simply wanted to watch the world burn. While Zara was learning that diplomacy had limits, Asha was discovering that even the greatest warrior could be overwhelmed. Bakari's forces hit the border camps like a tsunami of steel and fire. Asha fought brilliantly. Her strategies were flawless, her tactics were inspired. She saved hundreds of soldiers with quick thinking and impossible courage. But 10,000 enemies don't care how skilled you are. They just keep coming. In the final desperate battle, Commander Kwame, the only father Asha had ever known, was struck down protecting a group of young soldiers. As he lay dying in her arms, this honorable man finally told her the truth that had eaten at his soul for 16 years. "Asha, you are not my daughter by blood. You are Princess of Nubia, twin sister to Princess Zara. The king, the prophecy, they separated you to save you both." He pressed a royal pendant into her blood-stained hand, identical to the one Zara wore. The kingdom needs both its daughters now. The prophecy. Maybe we understood it wrong.
Imagine discovering in your darkest moments that your entire life has been a lie. That you have a sister you've never met. That you're royalty, not a soldier's daughter. And that a prophecy has kept you apart from the one person who might complete you. Asha rode toward the capital with her world shattered, and her heart breaking. Behind her, the border defenses were crumbling. Ahead of her, an impossible enemy was demanding surrender. Princess Zara returned to the palace with her faith in diplomacy shaken, but her resolve stronger than ever. Her father was preparing to sacrifice her to save the kingdom. And then, the throne room doors burst open. Picture this moment: Princess Zara, elegant in royal silk, standing beside her father's throne. Asha, battle-scarred and fierce, striding through the doors, carrying a bloodied sword and devastating news. The entire court gasped. Guards reached for weapons. Nobles whispered in shock, because standing before them were two young women who looked identical, except one carried herself like born royalty and the other moved like death incarnate. Zara stared at this warrior who shared her face. Asha stared at this princess who shared her soul. Both unconsciously touched the pendants they'd worn their entire lives. King Malik turned white as bone because he knew exactly what this moment meant. The prophecy that had kept his daughters apart for 16 years had just been shattered. And somewhere in the distance, warlord Bakari's army was marching closer, unaware that they were about to face not one princess, but two: the diplomatic genius and the warrior prodigy, the heart and the sword, the two halves of what might just be the perfect ruler. But first, they had to survive learning the truth about each other and decide whether the prophecy that separated them was their salvation or their doom. What happens when a master diplomat meets an undefeated warrior and discovers they share the same face, the same blood, and the same impossible destiny? The answer will determine not just their survival, but the fate of an entire kingdom. If you want to discover how these twin princesses combine their powers to face an impossible enemy and whether the prophecy will destroy them or save them, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on, because Acts 3 and 4 will reveal secrets that will change everything you think you know about destiny, family, and the true meaning of strength. The silence in that throne room was deafening. Two identical faces staring at each other across an impossible gulf of 16 years of separation. But here's what happened next that nobody expected. They didn't embrace. They didn't cry. They didn't run to each other like in fairy tales. Instead, Princess Zara, trained in reading people, looked at this battle-scarred warrior and saw something that terrified her. Herself, but harder, deadlier, shaped by violence she'd never known. And Asha, who had spent her life protecting others, looked at this soft princess in silk and jewels and felt something she'd never experienced before: contempt. This sheltered girl had lived in luxury while Asha bled for the kingdom. "So this is my sister," Zara whispered, and there was no warmth in it. "And this is the princess I've been dying to protect," Asha replied, and there was no respect in it. King Malik stepped between his daughters with tears streaming down his face. "My daughters, I thought I was saving you both. The prophecy said—"
"The prophecy was wrong," Asha snarled. "Look what it cost us. Commander Kwame is dead, the borders have fallen. And for what? To keep us apart so you could have your perfect little diplomat and your secret weapon." Zara's diplomatic training kicked in, but she was shaking with rage. "You think this is easy? You think growing up in a cage, never knowing the real world, never having a choice about your own life is some kind of privilege?" What happened next broke King Malik's heart all over again. His daughters, who should have been allies, began to tear each other apart with words sharper than any blade. "While you were playing with swords," Asha said coldly, "I was learning how to prevent wars. But clearly, all your training wasn't enough to save our people. And while you were playing with words, real people were dying to protect your comfortable little world. Tell me, princess, have you ever held a dying soldier in your arms?" The court watched in horror as the twin princesses circled each other like enemies.
One accused the other of being weak, the other accused her sister of being naive. But then, something extraordinary happened. Queen Aduni, who had been dying slowly for months, summoned her last strength and spoke one word that cut through their anger. Enough! Queen Aduni rose from her sick bed, supported by servants, looking like she might collapse at any moment, but her voice carried the authority of 16 years of guilt and love. My daughters, look at each other. Really look. And for the first time, Zara and Asha stopped arguing and truly saw each other. Zara saw that Asha's hands were scarred from years of protecting others. Her eyes held the weight of soldiers she'd saved and couldn't save. This wasn't just a warrior. This was someone who had sacrificed everything for duty. Asha saw that Zara's eyes held the loneliness of someone who had never had a real friend, never had a choice, never had freedom. This wasn't just a spoiled princess. This was someone who had been trapped as any prisoner. The oracle never said you would die if you met. Queen Aduni continued, her voice growing weaker. She said you would die if you met before your destiny was fulfilled. Perhaps your destiny is not to rule separately, but together. She collapsed then, but not before whispering, the kingdom needs both of you. It always has. One heart, one sword, one crown. As their mother breathed her last breath, something shifted between the twins. The anger didn't disappear, but understanding began to grow in its place. They were both victims of the same prophecy, both prisoners of the same fear, both shaped by forces beyond their control. And now, with an army at their gates and their mother dead, they had a choice. Let their differences destroy them, or let their differences save everyone they loved. With less than 24 hours before Warlord Bakari's final assault, the twin princesses locked themselves in the war room with maps, messenger birds, and a desperate plan that would either save the kingdom or destroy it completely. Here's what made their partnership so powerful. They thought in completely opposite ways, which meant together they could see solutions that neither could find alone. Asha looked at the military situation and saw only one option. We fight to the death, make them pay for every inch. Zara looked at the same situation and saw something else entirely. What if we don't fight Bakari's army? What if we fight Bakari himself? What do you mean? Think about it, Zara explained, her diplomatic mind racing. Bakari rules through fear. His soldiers follow him because he seems invincible. But what if he's not? What if his own allies are waiting for him to show weakness? Asha's strategic mind caught on immediately. You want to turn his allies against him, but how? Leave that to me, but I'll need you to do something impossible. What? I need you to lose a battle. Here's what the twin princesses did that no one saw coming. Zara sent secret messages to 3 of Bakari's allied warlords, not asking them to betray him, but simply sharing information about Bakari's true plans. It turned out that Bakari intended to eliminate his allies once Nubia was conquered, keeping all the spoils for himself. Meanwhile, Asha did the hardest thing a warrior can do. She let the enemy think they were winning. She pulled her forces back, abandoned outer defenses, made it look like Nubia was on the verge of complete collapse. Bakari's ego grew with every mile his army advanced unopposed. But what Bakari didn't know was that Asha was leading him exactly where she wanted him, into a valley with only one way out, surrounded by cliffs that Nubian archers had been positioning on for days. The diplomatic princess and the warrior princess weren't just working together. They were thinking like one person with 2 minds. The climatic battle was unlike anything anyone expected. Bakari rode into what he thought was his moment of ultimate triumph, demanding Princess Zara be brought to him for the wedding ceremony that would seal his conquest. Instead, he found both princesses waiting for him. Which one of you is the real princess? He laughed, not understanding what he was seeing. We both are, they said in perfect unison. What followed was not just a battle, but a masterpiece of strategy and diplomacy combined.
while Asha led the military defense with brilliant tactics that turned Bakari's numerical advantage against him, Zara was using the chaos to implement her psychological warfare. She had planted seeds of doubt in the right minds. When Bakari's allies saw him trapped and struggling, when they realized that the weak kingdom of Nubia had been playing a deeper game all along, they began to withdraw their support. The final blow came when Bakari, in desperation, challenged both princesses to single combat. "If either of you can defeat me, I'll withdraw my army," he roared. "But when I kill you both, your kingdom surrenders completely." Asha stepped forward with her sword. Zara stepped forward with her words. "We accept," they said together, "but not one of us, both of us." The duel was brief, but legendary. Bakari was a mighty warrior, but he had never faced an opponent who fought with both sword and psychology simultaneously. While Asha matched his physical strength, Zara was breaking down his mental defenses, pointing out how his own army was abandoning him, how his allies had betrayed him, how his empire was already crumbling. When Bakari fell, it wasn't just to Asha's blade. It was to the realization that he had been outmatched not by force, but by unity. The kingdom was saved, but more than that, it was transformed. The people demanded that both princesses rule together as co-queens, the diplomatic queen and the warrior queen, two halves of perfect leadership. The prophecy had been fulfilled, but not as anyone expected. The twins didn't die when they met, they became stronger. One saved the kingdom through love, the other through war, but they did it together. And as they stood on the palace balcony looking out over their saved kingdom, Asha turned to Zara and said, "I'm sorry I called you weak." Zara replied, "I'm sorry I called you reckless. What do you think we would have been like if we'd grown up together?" "I don't know, but I think we're exactly who we're meant to become." The prophecy that separated them actually prepared them for this moment, not to rule alone, but to rule as one. And that is how two sisters, separated by fear and prophecy, discovered that their greatest strength wasn't in being apart, but in being complete. The twin princesses of Nubia ruled for 50 years, never losing a single war and never failing to find a peaceful solution when one existed. Sometimes the things we think will destroy us are actually the things that prepare us for our destiny. And sometimes the people we're afraid to meet are exactly the people we need to become whole. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. If this story moved you, hit that like button, subscribe for more epic tales, and let me know in the comments, what did you think of the twist ending? Did you see it coming that the prophecy was actually about unity, not separation? Until next time, remember, your story is still being written, and the best chapters might be the ones you never saw coming.